Welcome to The Modern Engineer, hosted by Syed Ishaat. This show goes beyond surface-level career advice, exploring how senior engineers and technical leaders build leverage, navigate complexity, and position themselves for long-term success.
Welcome to The Modern Engineer. I'm Syed Ishaat, and today I'm here joined by Gary Gillespie. How are you, Gary?
I'm well. How are you?
Not bad. It's almost Friday.
Yeah. Yeah.
But before we dive in, can you give a little context on what your role looks like today and what you're primarily responsible for?
Sure. So what I'm doing now is a little different from much of my career. I am a co-founder of a software startup in the IT space. So myself and a co-founder are working on a software application in the IT software market. Our first product is around uh, DNS configuration management, just version control in that space. But I've been an engineer in the software space for a long time before that.
Very cool. How did you start out in your career?
After graduate school, I have a master's in mechanical engineering. I was fortunate enough to get a job at the NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston. So worked there for a number of years, right in the heart of the space program. So it was a fun time. I did after a number of years decided to get out of that and get into the software market because I was kind of drawn to software technology and went to work for a software company that did maintenance management software around heavy industries like utilities and mines and things like that, which my engineering background was very helpful because I had an understanding of how these businesses operated, so I could more effectively talk about how the software related to their business processes.
That's a neat transition. What challenges did you face along the way?
Well, it's several points in the career. Obviously, trying to change industries was a challenge. Uh, I was the software space that I was in with maintenance management software was really good for a few years, and then it was during the time of the dot com dot bomb sort of things happening in the early 2000s. I went to work for a company in the dot com space. And like many of the companies in that space, a year later, it was a lot smaller than it was when I started because a lot of these businesses were shrinking. And so it was a tough time to be in the market as an engineer or someone who really wanted to do more of the operations and engineering and sales engineering side of the house, which was areas of interest. So it was a tough period. Software companies were not hiring. So just staying diligent and working to network and find opportunities. But it was a little bumpy road along a period of that before I landed at my next role.
Once the persistence paid off.
It did. It did.
And what was the pivotal moment you would say that really changed your career trajectory? What really catapulted your career? Would you say like a project assignment? Was it like a customer meeting? Was it a presentation? What was the moment that really elevated your career?
Well, in my case, I after that period with when the economy was tough, I had landed at a small software company that I had known the president of that company in a prior company I worked for, and he brought me in a business development kind of an engineering kind of role. And shortly after coming on board, he was promoted to move to a different part of the country to run another business in the portfolio. And I was promoted to general manager of the company. So it was a small company. So it was not the kind of thing you would have happen in a large company, but it turned out to be a great opportunity. And I ended up general manager and then vice president and running that company for 17 years. So it was a great role, a great opportunity to use my engineering background because it was also very technical software. And so the customers we were selling to were a very technical minded audience. And also develop the business skills that you need to be in a leadership role.
That's inspiring. You definitely leveled up. And this might have multiple answers to it. If you could dice it down, what changed after this pivot? You transitioned from general manager to vice president. You go up the ranks. What was the biggest thing you noticed? Like, you got promoted, definitely more pay, maybe more benefits. What stands out most? Was it recognition? You got more recognition, more customer base? Did you have more of a team underneath you? What really sparked your attention as you were growing in that role?
Well, it was, I guess, a lot of those things. You certainly, when you move into a leadership role, you feel the responsibility of making sure the company's doing the right things, that you're responding to your customers' needs, that you're thinking about your employees, staff, how are they progressing? Are they being treated fairly? All the things that come into mind when you're taking on that broader role. And then obviously the outbound side of it, sales, how not only your sales team, but how the customer base is receiving what you guys are doing. Where do you need to be? So where do we need to go? Because no business can stand still. So there are a lot of elements to that type of role that were a lot of fun and were challenging because as an engineer, as many engineers are, I tend to be, I started out pretty introverted, did not really, I think a lot of engineers resonate with that. You're more comfortable with the technology or a machine or something than necessarily being in front of people and presenting and so forth. And you have to develop those skill sets if you're going to be in a public role, a more customer-facing role in a company. And that's an important skill set, I think, to develop when you're younger to get used to speaking in front of groups, to explaining what you do and the value prop of what you're offering in very simple terms, because we also NASA had a lot of this, but every industry does. There's a lot of jargon, there's a lot of terminology, and it can be a convenient shorthand when you're talking within your group. But when you're talking to broader audiences, you have to learn to get rid of all that and speak in simple terms that people understand. And so that's an important skill set, I think, as well.
I admit, when I was in engineering school myself, I hated the class. It was called public speaking. I hated that class, but they make you take it for a reason.
They do. It's a really important skill. And depending on what, your aspirations are, some people are very comfortable staying off the radar, sometimes not being visible in a role that's very isolated. But a lot of people, especially as you get older, you start desiring a little more of that external interaction, and so building those skills is really important.
Very important, very important. How does someone listening, and this is a bit of a loaded question because, again, I could have many answers, but I want to know from your take, how does someone listening achieve your level of success?
Well, it's a good question. I've been fortunate to have some opportunities. I think there's just kind of being in the right place, the right time, some blessings that have come from those things. But I also think that building relationships with people very early on in your career and helping other people achieve their objectives, what they're trying to do, is immensely valuable at creating goodwill and willingness for people to help you down the road. So I think if you want to have a career that's moving up, you need to think broader than what do I need to do or how do I achieve this? It's how do I help other people be effective in what they're doing? And you find that comes back around to people thinking of you when there's an opportunity, being willing to be helpful to you if you've got a challenge and things. So I think that is something that I've learned along my career path, and probably later than I wish I had, of just the importance of a broad network and of helping other people achieve their objectives. The other thing I would offer is being willing to take on new tasks whenever there's an opportunity at your job, not necessarily with looking for the immediate compensation or something, but just if someone says we need someone to take this task on, being willing to do that, being willing to go that extra mile, put in the extra hours without asking for something can go a long way. Because I think the flip side of that is if you're unwilling to do anything more than what you're being paid to do without there being some kind of change, that creates a barrier for the management team to want to involve you. And so I would caution against that.
That's great advice. It don't have that not my job attitude. Be a team
That's
player, step up every now and then. Don't just stick to comfort. You have to experience some uncomfortness in order to progress. And
yeah.
the first one you mentioned, it resonates with the saying I've been hearing recently, which is called your network is your net worth. So
Yeah.
definitely building relations early on. I think that's a great piece of advice for the audience to take away.
Good. Yes, I think it's so important that we, you want to be a good worker, you want to add value in what you do, but it's what you do to connects to other people in the business and how you connect, um, how you help them is the kind of thing that can have a very positive impact on your trajectory.
Well, Gary, it sounds like things are going really well for you professionally. And at a certain point, when people reach a certain level of success, they start thinking more intentionally about the future. Things like flexibility, optionality, or even passive income to complement what
Hmm.
they're already doing. Is that something you've thought about at all?
It is something I've thought about a good bit. It in my current role as in a startup, it's a very different dynamic than the business world. So right now, some of those things are somewhat aspirational, but I think one of the things that is important that early on in my career was not common that I see a lot with younger people that I think is really good is having side activity, a side hustle, if you will, things that you're working on that you're doing to build a complementary skill set to your core job. That wasn't as common when I was young to be doing that. You kind of worked heads down for your company and you tried to expand within those roles, but you didn't necessarily have a side gig. And so I think that's a good thing. I think for you, for your audience as younger engineers to think about what can I be doing that's complementary or an area of interest of mine that if you can build that into from a hobby into something more meaningful, then you're more aligning your skill sets with your passions, and if you can turn that into an income, that's great.
Well said. Very good. Well, if someone listening is earlier in their career but on a similar path as you, what would you say is something you wish you knew sooner in your career?
I believe it would come back to the networking and helping people to meet their objectives. That intentionality. I'd like to think I've always been a helpful person if someone asked me to help with something, but being more intentional about um, helping someone achieve an objective, following up with them to see if they did that. Those kinds of things are really helpful, and also thinking about where you want to go in your what are your career aspirations? And that answer is different for everyone. Some people like um, they like the hardcore aspects of design engineering, or they like operations side, or they want to move into an engineering operations or sales role in a technical capacity, or whatever interests you. Not everyone's going to have that same answer. So I think having putting some thought into where you think you would like to go in your career is really important to help you identify the tasks and the skills and the activities you need to be involved in along the way. I mean, your career is not going to follow a predictable path. Most don't anyway. So
Yeah.
you have to adjust to everything from market dynamics to to whatever else may come along. But I think being intentional about where you want to go can help you make good choices about how to prioritize.
I'm glad you said that. I can definitely resonate to that. When I got into engineering school, I really wanted to make robots. That's what I thought I was gonna do, and I kind of went on that path. I'm in industrial automation, so like it's a lot more machinery heavy, more so
Mhm.
than robotics. But it was kind of a similar path, but not exactly robotics. So
Yeah, well, I can relate to that. I studied some robotics in school back in the day and ended up specializing in control system theory when I did my master's. So even though it was mechanical engineering, it was kind of more control systems. So I can relate to that.
yeah. Well, Gary, I really enjoyed this. I really appreciate what you bring to the audience, and I appreciate you sharing your perspective today. And
Well,
I just want to say thanks for listening to The Modern Engineer. I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Modern Engineer with Syed Ishaat. If this episode resonated, make sure to subscribe and share it with others. And if you bring a unique perspective on leverage and long-term positioning, you can learn more about being considered for the show in the links below.